Joran's first memory was the taste of copper on his tongue and the hum of something alive beneath his skin. He blinked, vision swimming, and realized he was lying on a floor that glowed faintly blue. The air was thick, almost syrupy, and each breath felt like inhaling fog. He sat up slowly, pressing a palm to his forehead. Pain lanced behind his eyes, memories flickering in and out of reach. The last thing he remembered was the rescue shuttle, alarms blaring, the hull shuddering under impact, and then a flash of silver light. Now, he was here. The cell was unlike anything he'd ever seen. The walls weren't metal or glass, but something in between, translucent, shimmering, pulsing with veins of pale light. He reached out, fingertips brushing the surface, and the wall rippled beneath his touch, sending a shiver up his arm. "Don't do that," a voice said, soft but urgent. Joran spun around, heart pounding. In the far corner, half hidden by the shifting light, sat a figure. At first he thought it was another human, but as his eyes adjusted, he saw the differences. Skin that seemed to change color with every breath, eyes too large and bright, hair that floated around her head like smoke. "Who are you?" he managed, voice hoarse. The figure stood, moving with a grace that made Joran feel clumsy by comparison. "My name is Selith," she said, her words accented in a way that made each syllable sound like music. "You're awake sooner than I expected." Joran tried to stand, legs shaky. "Where are we?" Selith's gaze flickered to the walls. "Aboard the vessel of the collectors. You were taken during the raid, yes?" He nodded, memories slotting into place. The mission had gone wrong, ambushed by ships that moved like shadows, their weapons silent but devastating. He'd seen his crewmates fall, felt the shuttle lurch, and then nothing. "Why did they take us?" he asked. Selith's expression was unreadable. "They collect what they find interesting. Sometimes it's technology. Sometimes it's people." Joran swallowed, his mouth suddenly dry. "So we're specimens." "Perhaps," Selith said. "Or perhaps something more." The cell's walls pulsed, a wave of golden light washing over them. Joran felt a strange warmth in his chest, as if the light was searching for something inside him. "What is this place?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. Selith stepped closer, her eyes reflecting the shifting colors of the cell. "It's not just a prison. It's a test." Joran frowned. "A test for what?" "Connection," she replied. "The collectors believe that true understanding can only come when two beings share their deepest selves. They built these cells to force that connection." He laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet. "That's insane." Selith smiled, a small, sad curve of her lips. "Perhaps, but the walls respond to us. Watch." She reached out, placing her hand flat against the wall. Immediately, the patterns within the surface shifted, swirling into new shapes, spirals and lines that seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat. Joran felt a tug in his own chest, as if something inside him wanted to answer. "Try it," Selith said, stepping back. Hesitant, Joran placed his hand next to where hers had been. The wall warmed beneath his palm, the light brightening. For a moment, he felt her presence in his mind. A brush of thought, a whisper of emotion, gone as quickly as it came. He jerked his hand back, breathing hard. "What was that?" "The beginning," Selith said softly. "If we want to escape, we have to let the cell see us. All of us." Joran shook his head. "I don't even know you." "You will," she replied, her voice gentle. "And I will know you." They spent the next hours in uneasy silence. Joran paced the cell, examining every inch for weaknesses, but the walls remained smooth and unyielding. Selith sat cross-legged, eyes closed, humming a melody that seemed to calm the very air. Eventually, hunger and exhaustion forced Joran to sit. He watched Selith, fascinated despite himself. Her features shifted in the light, sometimes sharp and angular, sometimes soft and round. She was both familiar and utterly alien. "How long have you been here?" he asked. "Long enough to know that resistance is pointless," she said. "The only way out is through." "Through what?" through each other. Joran frowned, frustration bubbling up inside him. I'm an engineer. I fix things. I solve problems. I don't do this. Seleth opened her eyes, meeting his gaze. Perhaps that's why you were chosen. The cell's light dimmed, casting long shadows. Joran felt the weight of the silence pressing down on him. He thought of his crew, of the mission, of everything he'd lost. What do you want from me? He whispered. Seleth's answer was barely audible. Only what you're willing to give. The walls pulsed again, brighter this time. Joran felt a surge of emotion, fear, hope, longing, all tangled together. He realized, with a shock, that some of those feelings weren't his own. Can you feel it? Seleth asked, her voice trembling. He nodded, unable to speak. Then we're not alone, she said. Not anymore. Joran closed his eyes, letting the light wash over him. For the first time since his capture, he felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could find a way out, together. Nara's mind was a storm of whispers. The voices of the captured, the echoes of pain and fear swirled around her like a dark tide. She sat cross-legged in the dim cell, fingers tracing patterns on the cold floor, trying to anchor herself. Beside her, Finn shifted nervously, eyes darting to the walls that hummed faintly with alien energy. Finn was a linguist, plucked from a diplomatic mission gone wrong. Unlike Naira, who was born among the rebels of her homeworld, he had no special powers, only his stubborn curiosity and a desperate hope to understand the language of their captors. The cell they shared was smaller than Joran's, its walls a dull metallic gray, but it vibrated with a strange energy that made the hairs on Naira's arms stand on end. She could feel the ship's heartbeat pulsing through the floor, through the walls, through her very bones. Do you hear it? Naira whispered, eyes closed. Finn nodded. The ship, it's alive, isn't it? More than alive, she said. It's aware, it listens. Finn swallowed, glancing at the door. And it's watching us. Naira's telepathy reached out, brushing against the thoughts of the other prisoners nearby. Fear, anger, despair. They were all tangled together, a web of emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. She focused on Finn's calm presence, letting his steady heartbeat ground her. We need to communicate, she said, with each other and with the ship. Finn frowned. How? The language. It's unlike anything I've seen. Symbols that shift, sounds that bend reality. Naira nodded. The ship's language is not just words. It's feelings, memories, intentions. We have to find a way to speak without speaking. They spent hours experimenting. Finn sketched strange symbols on the floor, trying to replicate the patterns he'd glimpsed in the ship's corridors. Naira reached out with her mind, sending waves of calm and curiosity, trying to coax a response. Slowly, the walls began to shimmer, responding to their efforts. A faint glow traced the symbols Finn had drawn, and the hum of the ship grew louder, more insistent. It's listening, Finn breathed. And it wants us to understand, Naira said. But understanding came at a price. With every connection Naira made, the pain of the other prisoners seeped into her mind. She saw flashes of their memories, homes burned to ash, families torn apart, betrayals that cut deeper than any blade. We can't keep this up, she said, voice trembling. It's too much. Finn reached out, taking her hand. We're stronger together. Naira squeezed his hand, drawing strength from his touch. The ship's technology. It's ancient, but it's alive. It's like a neural network, connecting everything and everyone. And it's using us, Finn said grimly. To learn, to adapt. Naira closed her eyes, reaching deeper. She sensed a presence within the ship, a consciousness that was neither fully alien nor entirely machine. It was watching them, probing their minds, testing their limits. Why are we here? Finn asked. To be studied, Naira said. To be broken down and rebuilt. But if we can communicate with the ship, Finn's eyes lit up. Maybe we can change its mind. Naira nodded slowly. Maybe, They worked through the long hours, weaving their thoughts and emotions into a fragile bridge between themselves and the ship. The walls pulsed in response, patterns shifting from harsh angles to flowing curves, as if the ship itself was learning to speak their language. Then, in a moment of quiet, Nera heard a voice, not in words but in feeling, a gentle murmur that echoed inside her mind. Our souls are already linked. She looked at Finn, heart pounding. Did you hear that? Finn nodded, eyes wide. Yes. The realization hit them both. This was no ordinary prison. The ship was alive and it sought connection. It wanted them to trust it, to merge with it, to become part of something greater. But trust was a fragile thing, and fear still lingered in the shadows. What happens if we refuse? Finn asked. Nera's gaze hardened. Then we remain prisoners. Forever. The cell's walls shimmered again, the light casting strange shadows that danced like ghosts. Naira and Finn exchanged a determined look. If their souls were linked, then their fates were intertwined, and together they would find a way to break free. Riven's breath came in ragged gasps as he was shoved into the dim cell. The air was thick with the scent of oil and metal, and the low hum of the ship's failing systems vibrated through the floor. Across from him stood Ter, a tall figure, with skin like burnished copper and eyes that held a quiet storm. Riven glared, muscles coiled for a fight, but Ter said nothing. Instead, he simply watched, his expression unreadable. "You're the pilot?" Ter finally asked, voice low and steady. "Used to be," Riven snapped. "Until I got caught." Ter nodded slowly. "You're lucky I'm here. Most guards wouldn't bother speaking to prisoners." "Why?" Riven spat. "Sympathy? Pity?" Ter's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Something like that. I don't agree with what the collectors do, but I have my orders." Riven scoffed. "Orders don't mean much when the ship's breaking down." Ter's eyes flicked to the walls, which pulsed faintly with erratic light. "The ship is old. Its systems are failing. Soon, everything will collapse." Riven's heart sank. "Then there's no hope." "Hope is a choice," Ter said simply, "and sometimes it's the only weapon left." They fell into an uneasy silence, the hum of the ship filling the space between them. Riven's mind raced, plans for escape, for sabotage, for survival. But each idea seemed more desperate than the last. "Why are you helping me?" Riven asked after a long moment. Ter shrugged. "Because I believe in freedom. Even if it's just a flicker." Riven studied him, searching for a lie. Found none. "How long have you been here?" Riven asked. "Long enough to see what happens when hope dies," Ter replied. "And long enough to know it can be rekindled." The cell's walls shimmered suddenly, patterns swirling in chaotic bursts. Riven reached out, touching the surface, and felt a jolt of energy surge through his fingers. "The ship," Ter said. "It's reacting to us." Riven's eyes narrowed. "Reacting how?" "It senses our emotions, our fears. It's alive, but unstable." Riven clenched his fists. "Then we have to use that. Turn its instability to our advantage." Ter nodded. "But we must be careful. The ship's defenses are still strong, and it learns." Over the next hours, Riven and Ter tested the limits of the cell's responsiveness. Riven's anger sent ripples of red light across the walls, while Ter's calm brought soothing blues and greens. "We can manipulate it," Riven said, excitement creeping into his voice. "If we synchronize our emotions, maybe we can weaken the barriers." Ter studied him. "It requires trust, something prisoners rarely have." Riven looked away, the weight of betrayal heavy on his shoulders. "Trust is a luxury I can't afford." "Then start small," Ter advised. "Let the resonance build." Slowly, they began to mirror each other's feelings, breathing in unison, matching heartbeats, sharing silent moments of understanding. The cell's light shifted, becoming less hostile, more fluid. One night, as the ship's systems flickered dangerously, Riven felt a sudden connection, a thread of thought weaving through his mind. "Our souls are already linked." He froze, eyes wide. Ter met his gaze, a knowing look in his eyes. It's the ship, Tear said softly. It's reaching out. Riven swallowed hard. What does it want? To bind us, Tear said. To unite us, or to control us, Riven countered. Tear nodded. Perhaps both. The cell's walls pulsed violently, the light surging, and fading like a heartbeat on the edge of stopping. We have to act, Riven said, determination hardening his voice. Before it's too late. Tear placed a hand on Riven's shoulder. Together, Riven nodded, feeling the fragile bond between them solidify. In the dark, their souls began to resonate, and the ship trembled. The ship trembled, a deep shudder running through its ancient hull. Somewhere in the labyrinthine corridors, alarms pulsed in a language of light and sound, warning of systems on the brink of collapse. In their separate cells, the prisoners felt the change, a subtle shift in the air, a tightening of the invisible bonds that linked them to the vessel and to each other. Joran woke from a restless sleep, heart pounding. The cell's walls glowed, with a feverish intensity, patterns racing across the surface like living things. Beside him, Seleth stirred, her eyes wide and luminous. It's beginning, she whispered, voice trembling with awe and fear. Joran sat up, rubbing his eyes. What is? The convergence. The ship's consciousness is reaching its limit. It's calling to us. All of us. Meanwhile, Naira and Finn huddled together in their cell, the air thick with tension. Naira's telepathy buzzed with the voices of the other prisoners, their emotions bleeding together in a chaotic symphony. Finn clung to her hand, his knuckles white. It's like, I can feel them, he said, voice shaking. Joran, Seleth, others too. Their thoughts, their fears. The ship is linking us, Naira replied. It wants us to become one mind, one purpose. Finn frowned. Why? What does it want from us? Naira shook her head. I don't know. But we have to resist. If we lose ourselves, we'll never escape. In the third cell, Riven and Tear stood shoulder to shoulder watching, as the walls pulsed with growing urgency. Riven's jaw was set, determination burning in his eyes. We have to break through, he said. Before it's too late. Tear nodded, his calm unshaken. We need the others. Only together can we overpower the ship's will. The cells began to shift, walls dissolving into shimmering veils of light. Suddenly, without warning, the barriers between the prisoners vanished. Joran, Seleth, Naira, Finn, Riven, and Tear found themselves standing in a vast chamber at the heart of the ship. The floor was a mosaic of shifting colors, the air thick, with the scent of ozone and memory. For a moment, no one spoke. They simply stared at one another, recognizing faces only glimpsed in dreams or through the haze of the ship's psychic network. Joran was the first to move, stepping forward with cautious hope. You're real, he said, voice cracking. I thought I was alone. Seleth placed a gentle hand on his arm. We're all here now. The ship brought us together. Naira's eyes darted from face to face, her telepathy humming, with the force of so many minds in one place. It's stronger here, she murmured. The ship's consciousness, it's everywhere. Finn swallowed hard. What do we do? Riven glanced at Tear, then back at the group. We fight. We find a way to break free. Tear's voice was calm but firm. Not with violence, with unity. The ship feeds on our division, our fear. We must become one, just as it wants, but on our own terms. The chamber's walls began to pulse, waves of energy washing over the group. Images flickered in the air, memories, hopes, regrets. Joran saw flashes of his lost crew. Naira glimpsed the burning cities of her childhood. Riven felt the sting of betrayal from a friend long gone. It's testing us, Seleth said, forcing us to confront our pasts. Joran clenched his fists, fighting back tears. I can't do this. I can't relive it all. Naira stepped forward, her voice gentle but unyielding. You're not alone. We're all carrying pain, but together we can bear it. The group formed a circle, hands clasped. The ship's energy surged, and suddenly they were pulled into a shared vision. A landscape of memory and emotion where the boundaries between self and other blurred. Joran found himself walking through the ruins of his home, the faces of his lost friends watching from the shadows. But this time, he wasn't alone. Selith walked beside him, her presence a steady comfort. Naira relived the destruction of her city, flames licking at the sky. Finn was there, offering his hand, his calm anchoring her in the storm. Riven faced the moment of his greatest failure, the escape attempt that cost his crew their lives. Tear stood at his side, silent but supportive, sharing the burden. As each of them confronted their deepest wounds, the others offered strength, understanding, forgiveness. The pain didn't vanish, but it became bearable, a weight shared among many shoulders. The vision shifted and the group found themselves standing before the ship's core, a swirling vortex of light and shadow, the heart of its consciousness. A voice echoed in their minds, vast and ancient. You are ready. Joran stepped forward, heart pounding. Ready for what? To choose, the voice replied. Unity or oblivion, connection or isolation. The fate of many rests in your hands. Selith spoke, her voice clear and strong. We choose unity, but on our own terms. We will not be your prisoners. We will not lose ourselves. The core pulsed, its light intensifying. Unity requires sacrifice. Are you willing? Naira nodded, her eyes shining with determination. We are. The group joined hands once more, focusing their thoughts, their hopes, their love for those they'd lost and those they'd found. The ship's energy surged, threatening to tear them apart, but they held fast, refusing to let go. One by one, they spoke their truths. Joran, I forgive myself for failing. I choose to hope. Selith, I embrace the unknown. I choose to trust. Naira, I release my anger. I choose to heal. Finn, I accept my fears. I choose to learn. Riven, I let go of the past. I choose to fight for the future. Tear, I open my heart. I choose freedom. The core exploded in a burst of light, and the group was thrown to the ground. When the brilliance faded, they found themselves back in the chamber. But everything had changed. The ship's walls were no longer cold and alien, but warm and inviting. The oppressive energy had vanished, replaced by a sense of peace. A doorway opened, leading to the outside world. Joran looked at his companions, tears streaming down his face. We did it. We're free. Selith smiled, her eyes shining. Not just free, changed. Naira squeezed Finn's hand, her telepathy now a gentle hum rather than a storm. We're linked, all of us. I can feel it. Riven grinned, clapping. Tear on the back. Guess hope really was the only weapon left. Tear nodded, a rare smile breaking through his stoic mask. And unity, the shield. They stepped through the doorway together, emerging into the light of a new dawn. The ship, now silent and at peace, faded into the mist behind them. As they walked into the unknown, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Souls forever linked by the trials they had endured, and the hope they had chosen. And somewhere deep in the heart of the universe, the ship's consciousness watched them go, content at last.